Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams with NFL Draft Diamonds. We're mixing things up today, and we're talking to the owner and executive director of the hottest new bowl game out there, the All Stars in the All Star circuit, and that is Scott Phillips of the American Bowl. Nice to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, glad to be here, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Yeah, we're obviously old friends and stuff, but some people still have yet to get a chance to meet you, know your story, want to understand a little bit more about the American Bowl and what the American Bowl is bringing to the table this year. So, uh, let's start with you, man. Talk a little bit about you and your own personal background before we get
Sure.
going.
All right, yeah, man. I'm up here in Cleveland, Ohio, and been football has been my life since as long as I can remember. My first memory of childhood was the Cleveland Browns beating the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, where Clay Matthews intercepted Jim Kelly at like the 2 yard line in the wild card round, and it's always just been my life has kind of been dictated around football Sundays and as I grew up, obviously playing it a little bit and whatnot, it really became the staple of my life. Tore my ACL playing minor league football in 2011 or 12, I forget, and tried coaching high school for a year and ended up saying, I need to give this a rest and get it out of my head. That didn't work. So after a real estate career, popped back in, and that's where I met you. We connected through our good friend Damon, and we ran a college all-star game together for a year there, and then I know you carried on with it. I was over at Toledo and in Westminster and Kent State, and reunited toward the end of last year and whatnot. And I worked that game again, and we've kind of we've evolved over the years here, on the personnel side and scouting, and that's sort of been like my bailiwick. I didn't anticipate the All-Star game thing being like a full-time job by any extent of the imagination. But last year, we needed it. We needed an executive director for the All-Star game, the Hula Bowl that I was working for. Had a great experience there, building that thing out and doing all the things we did. And sort of at the end of the year, as we were making decisions about what to do next, realized, hey, it would be really great if we could do something a little bit different. And that's where the American Bowl was born from. That's really where I'm at. I'm the director of the game. I do still love the personnel side and the coaching side. It's not as easy to spend as much time there, but that is all part of the gig.
Well, Scott, want to dive back into some of the earlier days, and then we do want to, yeah, obviously get up to where we're at right now. Try my best. I know we've talked at least once upon a time about your own personal background and your
Mhm.
own football story. Um, Obviously, played some football during your college years. Played a little bit also in the, I guess it was the, what was it, the North American
Yeah.
Football League and the indoor league too
Yep.
of
Yeah.
American. And uh, you're a quarterback, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I wanted to be. I didn't know a whole lot about football growing up as a player, just as a fan. I did play ball in high school. I tried to walk on twice at Ohio State and didn't stick either time. I did play minor league football for 5 seasons in the NAFL, and in between that, in the subseason there in the AIFA, which is the American Indoor Football Association for the Canton Legends, and it was a lot of fun. It was kind of a funny, I don't think I ever cashed my first paycheck from the Canton Legends. I think I framed it. It was like the coolest thing to be a professional, right? But
Sure.
those leagues popped up and came and went and whatnot during the recession of that era. That was like 2008 to 12. And like I said, it's tough. We had my daughter in 2010, my son in 2012, and the amount of time I could spend working out and keeping the body in shape for those hits was pretty limited. So when I tore my ACL, it honestly was probably shocking it hadn't happened sooner.
Yeah, well, hey, just kind of wanted to establish the fact that you have been a player.
Yeah,
I know you, kind of downplay that a little bit, but I mean, you were a professional. Let's just go
yeah,
ahead and say it. Also, if people don't know, you really established yourself as one of the premier, guys, selling real estate, being a real estate agent, owning your own company. Talk about that briefly.
yeah. So we had. I became a realtor because I was told I needed a real job. And as I said, the market kind of recessed. The whole economy was back when I was getting into it. And somehow, and I really couldn't illustrate how this happened, but ended up being the CEO of our franchise, and then we grew it pretty big. So that was sort of my big boy job, was to run a real estate franchise. Ended up being one of the more valuable ones in the country, right out of Cleveland, Ohio, of all places, if you can believe it, for Keller Williams Realty. So yeah, it was
Cool.
cool. It was a great career. I semi-retired from that right about the time we met in 2021. I still own it. I'm actually here right now doing this interview, but I'm not. I haven't worked here in a while.
That's all right. I mean, obviously you established yourself there, and you're in my mind, I always see you as a go-getter, who whatever it is that you want, you get it accomplished. And I think if we could kind of I guess humor the thought, I think a lot of that does stem from your days as a realtor.
Yeah,
You have to, in the framework of being a realtor, work your butt off when you know you're
yeah,
not getting paid. You have to really do a whole bunch in order to get things
right.
accomplished, right? Like you need to, establish yourself, establish your credibility, and then of course put your whole heart into something. Which, dude, I know you
Yeah,
do with everything that you do.
yeah.
And I also have in my notes, uh, you're like a part-time manager, owner of like a restaurant too.
All right, well, that one's a little more fun. So yeah, my grandma, when I was growing up, owned a restaurant. It's been passed through our family for 107 years. It's the oldest restaurant in Cleveland, and I came into ownership of that. That was a while ago, in 2013, before we met. And my father and my aunt actually are there just about every day running it. I'm there periodically just because it's nearby. It's home for me in Cleveland. My daughter works there now. That gives you an idea of how old I
Cool.
am. So my almost 15-year-old daughter's working there at the moment. But yeah, it is cool, and that's when all this football thing's said and done. Most guys in football don't get to choose when they retire. And that's something that's not lost on me. A lot of football careers end just because no one else wants to work with you. And I anticipate that'll be my path too, just because that's the reality of the industry. So when it all is said and done, and anyone wants to find me, I'll be in the basement of that restaurant cooking chicken parmesan, and y'all can find me there, and we'll reminisce about the days that we saw, undrafted free agents make rosters and get second contracts.
Awesome. Give them a shout out real quick. Name the
Yeah.
restaurant, where it's
Uh,
located.
yeah, it's called Guarino's Restaurant. Guarino's, most people will forget the name 10 seconds after I say it, but it is Guarino's. If you Google search Cleveland's oldest restaurant, it's always the one that pops up. And actually, it is as we're filming this, it's the Italian festival right now in Cleveland. Starts in about 6 hours. So it's the busiest 4 days of the year for the restaurant. So it's pretty cool.
Wait, dude, if I'm ever in Cleveland, I know I'm going to check that
Gotta
one out.
come, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Uh,
meet you there.
cool. Again, you and I have known each other for quite some time. We're both the assistant directors of scouting for the Hula Bowl. You had a huge role in the leadership of that. And really, I think that really started things
Yeah.
for us in this whole journey of being a part of an all-star game.
Yep.
And dude, we went into this thing somewhat blind, but we
Yeah,
figured
man.
it out. And
That's,
kudos to both of us, man. Like I
amen.
just kind of love that.
Amen. That story, it's funny because it was the first one. Probably couldn't appreciate it as much in the moment as I can looking back now. But yeah, that the first All-Star game we did together was a grind, and neither of us knew. I mean, we knew how to look at a player and determine if they were good, but neither of us knew like what we were doing as far as like an All-Star. We were just kind of figuring it out, and it was pretty funny. I mean, the dynamic of you and I, and then also Damon. I mean, just a three guys with all very different personalities and coming together. And I look back at that, and that's probably the most fun that we had. Was we called it the golden era, but it was like the most fun. It was so many problems. We just kind of all put it together, figured it out. And I still remember when we made a 130-page scouting book of all the players, and trying to get that thing out to all the NFL scouts when they were at the game. And that thing was, even just creating that was such a commitment. It was unreal. A lot of fun.
Well, hey man, I still have a lot of pride over that roster.
Absolutely.
And the interesting thing is I see guys, from that roster making
Yeah.
NFL teams even recently,
Yeah.
getting signed, which
winning
blows
Super
my
Bowl.
mind, how that, you know, that roster that we had still has success.
No doubt, no
Um,
doubt.
uh, let's continue to walk through your journey, dude. I mean, obviously we were doing the Hula Bowl for a while, but you ended up shifting gears. I mean, you were at Toledo. You were, I guess, the assistant QB coach,
Yeah.
quality analyst, dude. I mean, whatever in the world that position was, but you were there
Yeah.
busting your balls at that job too. So talk
Yeah.
about what you had to do there at Toledo.
Well, I'll say this, and this is a little gear change, but anybody who's looking for a career in football, understand that, this part of my story is really an important one because I think that this is where a lot of guys who say they want to work in football drop off. And sometimes they can't help it, but this is where people drop off. So I knew, I've always wanted to work in the NFL, work for the Browns. You got the childhood dream kind of stuff. But, there's a lot of things you have to do to earn the right to get there. And, I didn't know what I was really signing up for at Toledo. I was blessed to get hired by the head coach of all people. I got connected to him through our bowl game. We were working together through the connection with Brian Kovac, who we took in the game. And the head coach, I said, hey, look, if you're ever looking for someone to help in personnel and scouting, let me know. Yeah, within 4 months, I was personnel scouting, operations assistant, and then yes, assistant quarterback coach because our QB coach was also offensive coordinator. So he had kind of a couple hats. So, I worked literally anything. And I would say to anyone looking to be a part of, college or professional football, this is that step that like you just have to take. I hate to compare anything to the military, but it's the boot camp kind of thing. Um, 80 hours was the minimum, 105 was about right, and no pay, literally zero. So Toledo was 110 miles from Cleveland. I had to pay out of my own pocket to get a apartment, furnish an apartment, feed myself, drive back and forth on the turnpike so I could still see my family, make my kids, ball games. I mean, my day would literally be in spring ball. I would wake up at about 4:45 in the morning, be in the practice facility at 5:45 for a 6 a.m. start. We would practice, film, workout, do all the stuff we do. At about 4:30, coach would cut me loose because he knew I had a family back in Cleveland. I would leave Toledo at 4:30, be back home by about 6:15, watch my son's baseball game, my daughter's softball game, maybe get some ice cream, and then I would turn around and drive back to Toledo, get there around midnight so I could repeat again on 4 hours sleep. And like that was, the extreme with the family living away, but like that is everyone's got a story like that. And ours luckily ended in a Mid-American Conference championship, which was great. One of the coolest moments of my football career was winning that game and walking down the field and hugging our quarterback and the confetti and all that. And then it also ended with a bowl game where we won the Boca Raton Bowl over a Liberty team that was previously ranked. I don't know if they were ranked by the time they got to us, but they started that year out really highly ranked. They were 10-0 or something. And so we beat them in Boca and really had some fun successes there. So yeah, the Toledo experience for me, 18 months there. Probably would have stayed longer, but I took a co-offensive coordinator job in Division Three, after spring ball of 23. That's really, again, to anyone who's going to watch this that's aspiring to get into football, like just understand, like that's a real period of time in your life. You have to earn it to get through the door and stay through the door. You really have to be willing to earn it, and there's a lot of sacrifice that can go with that.
Yeah, Scott, I mean, I know you sacrificed a lot that season, and I know it took its toll. Maybe I'm seeing the hairline recede a little bit more lately because of that. But I mean,
Guaranteed,
it's
man.
it's happening here
Getting
too.
gray too, bro. So
It's
that's
happening
everything at
here
once.
too. So, but it did culminate, like you said. I mean, it did culminate in great success that
Mm.
year. MAC championship, bowl game win, excellent outing for you. I mean, it's certainly a great experience. But again, like you said, I mean, you had to sacrifice a whole lot for that. I think a lot of that just kind of goes into the whole idea of being a scout, which I know you have wanted to do that for a while. I mean, you have this dream, you want to scout in the pros and such, and that doesn't start from just a dream. I mean, you have to really put forth the effort.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the early days of you as a scout. I mean, I know you had to go through a scouting school, so
Yeah.
talk about that process for you.
Yeah. So I dove all in. You know, my real estate company was in a transitional point. We had a worthy candidate coming up as CEO. You know, he needed to grow, and so I kind of got out of the way there. And in doing so, I enrolled in two programs. One was called the Elite Scout School. The founder of that was Dax Nollenberger, and then also the Scouting Academy. The owner of that being Dan Hatman, and the proctor, kind of the teacher, was John Peterson. And dove in really deep in both of those and learned the languages. Um, I will tell you though, like in all the, and I would tell anybody like take those. Okay, that's really important. And find a way to subsequently volunteer with a program if that's the path. Like that for me, I wish I would have done it simultaneously almost because it's hard to like, understand, hey, this guy's solid at this or good at that or very good at that, but like to use it in context where you don't sound like I almost feel like, I was trained in college to speak Italian, right? I took classes, but like anyone who spoke to me would know that I'm an American trying to speak Italian, right?
Sure.
Like that's how I felt with Scout School was like I was saying all the right words probably, but like I didn't really like I wasn't confident in it. I didn't know how ca like there's ways that people speak kind of casually. There's just different terms that are used and so those scouting programs are awesome. They really do. It's like it's almost like just reading the book, going right through the table of contents and getting to the end. And then if you can couple that with an actual like scouting opportunity with a school, that's really, I mean, you can learn a lot in, I don't know, probably 6 to 18 months, like 2 recruiting seasons.
Yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to these scouting schools,
Yeah.
academies, and such. Obviously, Dan Hatman doing his thing. Dax Nollenberger, also another guy that you had, connected with to better yourself as a scout. The whole scouting thing is kind of, I don't know, it's an always evolving process. And so I just kind of want to, I don't know, get from you maybe like, I don't know, what are some of the changes in the way that you evaluate now
Yeah.
versus perhaps like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think part of it is this, like watching games and reps, like, it's been a long time since I've played football, right? And I never played at this level. So it's amazing. Like if like I run my youth program back here in Cleveland, like grades 5 through 8. And so I visited a campus this week where, the offensive line was average size was probably 6'2", 305 pounds. And I'm thinking, wow, these guys are big. Well, I think that because they're as compared to the fifth to eighth graders I'm used to dealing with. If I went to Ohio State and had to stand next to DeJuan Jones, it would make the school I was just at small. So the first thing that I would say that has evolved is like my perspective. Like now having been through, 4 All-Star games, when I was coaching at Toledo, we played Ohio State, we played San Diego State, we played Liberty, like we played some big programs that have, big guys that are fast and twitchy. Last year I was at Kent State as director of player personnel. We were preparing for teams like Tennessee, Penn State, Pitt. Like those are huge programs with huge players, and the more you get out, the more we gain perspective. So that's probably number one. Because like I think in the beginning, a lot of it was like results-based scouting for me. Like I remember there was a kid, a Division III kid, who was a great kid, great player, like nicest dude in the world. He had like a million touchdowns or something, playing over in Division III. And then he really didn't have a lot of success in the All-Star circuit and had, no real latch on after that. And, if I look back now, I go, well, okay, and now having have to watch all these games and all these guys, I can say, okay, they were using him as kind of a utility player, forcing the ball to him in a lot of circumstances, but none of them were precise routes. None of them were contested catches. None of them were like really like blazing speed up the field, taking the top off. And most of it was like, hey, we just know this guy's reliable. We're going to force the ball to him. Okay, I can see that now. So when you see a player that has maybe like 65 catches and he's in the Sun Belt Conference or something like that, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy must be great. 4 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, let's go get that guy. Now I watch them a little more closely. How precise are the routes? How fast does the guy get off the ball? Does he force a corner to start inching back before the snap because the corners are afraid of his speed? Do they turn their hips and flip their hips faster because they know that he can break in any direction? Is he a hands catcher that tucks it to his body, or is he unsure and unstable? Like, so I think, the evolution for me after watching years and years has been really looking at their attributes, like how they perform and how they play, versus looking at their statistical line or looking at just their measurements. That's another thing too. Like measurements is a classic. Like there's guys that are like, DeJuan Jones, right? Like 6'10" or 6'9 and a half, however the hell tall he was, left tackle. Like that's a huge dude, right? I mean, unbelievably huge guy. But that doesn't necessarily mean his technique is great or that he uses it great. Now, he does, so that's an asterisk. But like there's guys that were really, really huge offensive linemen that I've watched that, they stand there like statues. They don't have the ability to anchor and kick step back in pass pro, and they just get run around and they lean completely. So again, watching more and more film, I can look and say, okay, in 10 to 20 to 30 clips, maybe a whole game at the most, for me, because, again, for all-star scouting, we don't have the capacity to, dig in as deep as you would if you were paying a guy. Um, that helps a lot in terms of the art, how I've evolved to picking the right guys and presenting them to the league, uh, people who come to the game versus, 4 years ago when I might have just said, okay, hey, that guy's on XYZ team and he played pretty good. We got to take him.
Yeah, Scott, I think both you and I have learned from that.
Oh yeah,
Without mentioning names, you and I both have learned from that, of course. So,
no doubt.
want to shift gears, want to really focus our time remaining to talk about this, I don't know, up and coming All-Star event in the American Bowl. Of course, you being the executive director, the owner, but hey, you cannot do this by yourself.
Yeah,
You need to have a team of greatness in order to get this
absolutely.
whole thing
Absolutely.
accomplished. So, talk about the people that are going to be with you this go around,
Yeah.
your overall team.
So we have a three-person executive team beyond me. So the first person that is our director of football. And I know it sounds funny to say just football, but it's anything that has to do with a football in the hand, whether it's a scout, whether it's a coach, whether it's the field, the equipment, whatever. That's Christian Cavio. He worked two All-Star games together with me. He's been a Mid-American Conference assistant position coach like I was, but at a different school, NIU. He's also been a position coach in Division II, I believe, at Western Oregon. And he's been at Louisville, he's been at Navy, he's got a pretty nice resume. And most importantly, it's a guy I trust, I can rely on. We've been in the trenches before and had to go through things, difficult challenges together and overcome them. So he's great. Director of Hospitality and kind of our event operations is Natalie Schiffolini. Natalie will be a second year All-Star person with me. Really didn't even anticipate hiring her last year. I actually worked with Natalie at Kent State. She was my assistant director there, or director on campus recruiting. Just an absolute gem to work with in this space. That's booking meals, making sure the hotels, everything is assigned right, the room assignments, anything that's not on the field is effectively hers. And then we have our director of kind of player experience and sponsorship activation, Chloe Shelby, who I think everyone knows. She's been around the All-Star games. This will be her fifth one in a row. And, for Chloe, she's going to make sure that our sponsors get everything they need and our players get everything they need. And just make sure that all the things that we commit to are delivered.
Well, I was checking out your guys' website.
Mhm.
I think it's like theamericanbowl.com or something
Sure
along those
is.
lines. And
TheAmericanBowl.com.
um,
Easy to
I
remember.
was check I was checking out obviously the coaches I've known. I've had
Yeah.
an opportunity to meet Brian Billick and Mike Smith. I was looking at the site and actually under their names has a name of a team. The
Ah,
Guardians, the Warhawks.
that's
What?
right.
Talk to me, dude.
It's funny. So those guys, Christian talked to them, and we effectively picked names that had to do with military battalions and squadrons. So Christian's kind of my native to all military terminology, so I wouldn't want to butcher it. I'd rather him explain the vernacular behind each one. But those were the teams that were picked to kind of continue with the American Bowl theme.
Well, talk to me about the American Bowl. Why the American Bowl? Why
Yeah.
not the Scott Phillips Bowl?
Oh gosh, because no one would want to watch that. Okay, so that's a good question. When we started this whole thing, it was just the new bowl. Like we didn't have a name. And all the bowl games tend to be 501(c)(3) nonprofits that support certain causes. So, the Senior Bowl supports the Mobile Arts Association, the East-West game supports Shriners Hospitals. So we kind of said, okay, what is, near and dear to us? We're the people here on the ground. Coach Billick served, he was Air Force. Christian worked at Navy, has a lot of family that served. So like we sort of just like gravitated toward that and kept finding ourselves doing that. The name, the American Bowl, came later. That was just sort of like a natural, we had to find something that was available that made sense, and that was that. But that was how that came to be. So we are um, working right now to get in conjunction with the NFL Salute to Service. It's our intention to make a large financial donation to the NFL Salute to Service. That's all pending their, red tapes and approvals and whatnot. And then also, no matter what, to make sure that we have military and veteran families get amazing experiences through the game. And some of those things are on-field experiences, autographed memorabilia, meeting coaches, having actual activations like during the game, during the practice week, and also on our community day, even visits over to McGill. So we'll be able to go and it's in Tampa, but we'll be able to go over there to the military base and say hi to some folks that are not too far away. So that's kind of our tie, so forth, and that's one that we're committed to. We're going to stick with.
Great. Scott, I love it. The American Bowl, focusing on military and what they obviously mean to us in this country. Uh, you've established a lot, and so I just kind of want to, go down these things real quick. Uh, going to be the game itself is going to be at Southeastern University,
That's right.
although the practices are going to be at UCF.
Right.
And the players are going to be staying at the phenomenal resort of the Caribe Royale.
Caribe
If
Royale
people
Resort.
aren't familiar with it, it's what we were at when we were doing the Hula Bowl. Fantastic, everything there. Talk about some of these venues.
Yeah, so I want to start with the Caribe Royale. I mean, first off, they're a great partner of ours, in this case. And secondly, like if you've been to Orlando, there's really nothing like it. I didn't know what to expect the first time I walked through that door. As you pull up, it's almost like Atlantis. And the buildings, the service levels, the qualities, the overall vibe, the big waterfall pool in the middle, it's got a convention space in the back that's way bigger than you would anticipate. And it's not affiliated with like one of the parks. So I think that's part of the reason I really didn't even know what it was. And then finding out, who they are and what they are an exceptional partner. The players love it, the coaches love it. And everyone said like that would be priority one would be to get back there. So I'm super grateful that they welcomed us back. The resources they have and provide are exceptional, and they're just such a great partner, great asset. I don't know what we do without them in Orlando. They're just awesome, awesome partners. And even when I go down there with my family, that's where I stay as well, just because it's such a cool spot.
Dude, why not? The thing with that resort, it's almost like you don't even want to leave. It's
I
so
know
it's
it.
so great.
I said you could literally just go there and have that much of a good time. It's really just incredible.
Exactly.
Great venue. Um,
Um,
so that's one. UCF is outstanding. I can't say enough good things about their equipment manager, their film crew. They help us with all of that stuff. The only reason we elected to not go into their stadium this year was that it's under a significant amount of construction at the end of their football season. So didn't want to try to fight around cranes and tractors and whatnot. So we're going to use their practice facilities for the practice weeks. We can have practices going on, with a staggered starts there and the locker rooms. And then as we get to walk through in game, we go to a great new partner, Southeastern University, who, and again, transparently, I'm a simple guy. I'm not a football junkie. The small schools in Florida, 1,000 miles away from me. I had never seen their campus or their stadium in my life. Drove down there, met with Coach Wall, and I was blown away. Just first off, a great person. And secondly, for what they've done there, it's a beautiful venue, and I think we'll sell it out. I'm pretty confident of that. They've been incredibly accommodating crew down there, and the game's going to be on NFL Network, so it's going to look real nice and good for them. To have the exposure, and be on a nationally televised, or a primetime game there on a Thursday night football.
yeah, why not, man? How many NAIA teams can say that, they people have seen their venue on NFL Network? I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean,
if there's any.
maybe some, I don't know, but I thought, in talking to them, it was just a very like refreshing conversation. They were just like, yeah, we would love to have this opportunity. Let's figure out what we need to do to make it work. And I love working with people like that. And it's about 40 minutes, 45 minutes southeast of the Caribe Royale, or southwest of the Caribe Royale, rather. UCF's like 40 minutes northeast. So it's kind of they're equidistant almost, but they're from the hotel, but they're just opposite directions. So, we'll have the great change overnight where we move out everyone's gear but I think it's going to be awesome. The guys are going to really love it. The field's like pretty new too. It's turf. I mean, it's in very, very good condition if it's not only a couple years old.
Cool. Again, game is set for January 22nd. Again, like you had mentioned, on the NFL Network. So, anybody who goes there is going to be seen by everybody, really.
Yeah.
Of course, we're expecting all 32 NFL
Oh
teams,
yeah.
also scouts from other leagues as well. I know we're going to be there. So, going to be very highly attended and going to be an excellent week for you guys. I mean, I know I've been a part of these sorts of things and they can be extremely crazy, maddening, but dude, I know you have an excellent team that's helping you get things together. Any final words that you want to share with people about the event or you yourself? Anything else?
Yeah. The only thing I would add to it is this: players, agents, scouts, people that have opinions on players. There's very few things in this industry that are more common than getting random messages from strangers saying, "Take my guy in the game." We get thousands of those. Last year, I had to turn my phone off at one point. I mean, so what I would say is this: like, uh, there's nothing wrong with recommending a player. There really isn't. And if you can qualify a player recommendation with interest from the NFL, and I don't, not because they would only play in the NFL, but just because there's some value to the highest league saying, yeah, we are actually looking at that guy. That is certainly helpful. But also understand that there's three all-star games that are exclusively not pay to play. Some of them you can be invited, but the ones that are exclusively not pay to play. That's the Senior Bowl, the East-West game, ours, I guess, and the HBCU Legacy Bowl, I believe, is also. So like, there's very limited options in terms of spots, and some of them play in more than one. So just understand, you could have an outstanding player that just might not make that cut, but it's like really, really close, or they might be a call up later. So, as that process goes, if me or my staff is like, hey, listen, like, yeah, we've seen this guy, we're just not ready to, pull the trigger on them, just, you don't need to make a call every 45 minutes to keep saying that we're making a bad decision. We're we're usually acutely aware of that. But there's a little something to that. So, if you have a recommendation and it's validated by a independent, NFL scout, and that person shoots us a message and say, hey, I think you should reconsider. We understand. But the power dialing to talk about the same guy for the 50th time, that's the only downside of the job is that everyone's got an opinion, and unfortunately, we'd love to take everyone, but we can only take so many.
Yeah, dude, I understand that. I mean, I
I know you
lived
do.
it too. So, yeah, I mean, people that go there, I mean, you go there, you shine, you get, called up to other all-star games as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
I kind of, I don't know, am taken back to a time where you were able to coach Sean Clifford. And Sean Clifford surprised us, really. He ended up getting drafted by the Packers. And you had the opportunity to coach him, watch him excel in the All-Star circuit, and, really, again, now playing, in the preseason and in the NFL. And I know you guys are going to be in that position once again where you're going to get great talent that's going to get drafted, going to get in the NFL, going to be starting. A lot of great things to look forward to as we're looking forward to the American Bowl. So,
Absolutely.
um, Scott, really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. Want to wish you and your team all the best this season. Okay.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. I appreciate you.
Sure thing. Once again, I got with me Scott Phillips, Executive Director and owner of the American Bowl. Check out that game this season. It's going to be January 22nd on NFL Network. Thanks again.